a long and strange trip it's been. My world is like I get to take the voices from the inside and put them on the outside. If I didn't spend so much time in a small padded room screaming. But I get paid for it. I have the greatest job in the world. You guys, I'm assuming, probably know most of the stuff I've done, so I won't go through the list because I never remember it until I'm on the plane on the way home. But I've done some weird stuff that I like. Anyway, so if you have questions, if you guys have questions, if yous have questions, I will answer them to the best of my ability. And if not, well, it's been really fun and it's time to go. Yes?
So, what was your first gig like and how did you go about getting it?
My very first gig, I had no idea that you could be a voice actor in Canada. I really didn't. It was a dream. It was like, you know, it's an oft-told on the internet story, but how I wanted to be. And I do it for a living when I used to get kicked out of school for, you know. So I had gone to theatre school. I'd studied my Shakespeare, my Ibsen, my Molière. I was going to tread the walls, bring culture to the masses. So I was an unemployed actor. And I actually got kicked out of theater school for always doing voices. Nobody's ever going to want to hear those little voices of yours, mister. Brent Michaels, my ass. So I had done a radio play that a friend of mine wrote, and I played like 8 characters on it. And I'm like, this is dumb. I'm good at this. Like, I like this. This is fun. I do accent. So I phoned up my agent and said, see, you know, maybe radio commercial, something. So I got an audition for Levi's. And they wanted a Jim Burns type voice. And I don't know if you know Jim, you should if you don't. But he's got a very distinctive voice and he works out of Vancouver. So he's got this, you know, like, so I was sitting there the night before, like drinking gasoline and eating charcoal. Oh my God, oh my God. So they go, yeah, Scott, you're next. So the door opens up and Jim Burns walks out. Neither of us got the gig. But I met a guy in there named Doug Parker who was casting it, and I was just being me, and like voices were coming out of my elbows and stuff. And he's like, dude, I wish I'd met you like a week ago. And I'm like, oh wow, thanks, why? And he goes, oh, I just finished doing some casting on G.I. Joe. And I'm like, yeah, right, like what, the cartoon? Yeah. Cool. And there was no industry in Vancouver at the time, so they were just starting that up. And I got an audition for the next thing that came in that was directed by a certifiable sociopath from Los Angeles, whose name I will not mention. And I went, well, I'm never going to do that again. And then they called me in for the next thing, which was the New Adventures of He-Man. So one of my first auditions, I actually had to go in and go, really? This is the line? Yes, God, that's the line. By the power of Grayskull, I have the power! And I think this is fun. So I booked that, which was 65 episodes of Relay, and suddenly I went from being an unemployed schmo to a very employed schmo. That was that. Now 12,000 episodes later, now everybody wants to do it, because they go, how come he's got a nice car, but he looks like a homeless man? Maybe this cartoon thing. But where was I going with that? My very first day on the job, ever, true story. We were recording a place called Little Mountain Sound in Vancouver that happened to be where we were recording a lot of the top sort of hard rock pop kind of stuff at the time. My very first day, I've got the address on there. Oh my God, I'm so... Breathe, okay, oh, this is gonna be so much fun. Okay, this is so cool. Okay, there's the door, I'm opening the door, and right into Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. And he's tiny. I almost flattened him. So that's how I got started. In a nutshell. Oh, sorry. I was going, I know that line. Do Maxwell, that's me in a nutshell. Yeah! I never run and hide. Never, unless there's something in it for me, tell a lie. Yes, Johannes.
Was it the weirdest thing you've ever had to autograph?
Oh, they were magnificent. here, thank you. I've autographed a lot of weird stuff. There's a Twinkie in Dallas that I've signed every year for 5 years running. That's a true story, same Twinkie. In the dystopian post-apocalyptic future, there will be nothing but Twinkies and cockroaches, and they will eventually interbreed and you will have sentient Twinkies running the world, and nobody will be able to eat them because they're Twinkies. I've signed a lot of weird stuff and a lot of weird people, and the one time somebody went straight from there to the tattoo parlor, and you know who you are if you're watching on YouTube. I told you not to. What I want to do one day is sign a Sharpie. But I want to sign the Sharpie with the Sharpie that I'm signing the Sharpie. Then I will be a true Zen master. Pretty much, if you can imagine it, I probably signed it. Which is why my signatures are worth nothing. Like one of those store coupons that value 1/100th of a penny. Oh, they were magnificent. Sorry, I was lost in my reverie. Yes?
I believe you had a bit part on the CW show Supernatural. Was it like dying within the first 5 minutes?
You know how many times I've died on camera? My biography will be, I have died a million deaths. That's how I choose roles now for on camera. In that same season, I did the Supernatural, which actually was a much longer scene with dialogue, but they ended up cutting it. Teaser trailer was kind of cool though, because it means you're like in and out one day. It's like I'm dead before the opening credits. My work is done. I don't know if you noticed, but as the camera was panning along under my redneck legs here, I had a big asshole in my pants. That's how Sharon Stone got started. But that year, I was torn apart by a zombie. I was eaten from the inside out by ravening insects, which I have an awesome picture of. I was torn apart by giant, oversized mutant Tasmanian devils in a movie called Tasmanian Devils. Worldly enough, for the first time in my career, I played an Australian, which was kind of fun, seeing as I am. Oh God, how else did I? I mean, I've been shot to death twice on Highlander, I've been cut in half by a sword on Highlander, I've been vaporized by aliens. I basically choose them that way. So I shot, done that. How are you going to kill me this time? Or at least wound me. What does that say about me? I don't know. Yes. And I will get to everybody, I promise.
The most favorite role you've ever done and the least favorite role you've ever done.
You know what I was about to do? I was about to do this. Canadians are smart. SMRT, smart. Least favorite and most, you know what? I love this sounds so dumb, but, you know, I have the greatest job in the world. If I ever start going, I gotta go sleep way in front of a hot microphone for a couple hours, carry all that damn money home. I've done some stuff that's been a little different. I did, y'all know the Christmas special, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, right? There was a sequel called Rudolph and the Island of Misfit Toys.
Not if you don't mind my being a dentist. I'm independent.
Did I ever tell you about Bumbles? Bumbles bounce! So I got, that was cool for me because I grew up on Rudolph. So that was one of my own cultural heroes. And I've seen side to side, and I have to say, I nailed him. I got to play Foghorn Leghorn in Baby Looney Tunes. Now, if you know anything about me in voice acting, the greatest of us all who has ever been was Mel Blanc. Were it not for Mel, I would not be doing what I'm doing. So that was cool. That was nerve-wracking but cool. I play a lot of characters that don't talk. I sort of get into the Frank Welker category, which is really awesome. But like I did a show called Sushi Pack, and I played a small blob of crime-fighting wasabi named Wasabi. Never spoke, just lots of... And for that, I studied my Shakespeare. From wheels of fire, there's a fighting at the end. So, there's lots of stuff where if you're doing, you see, and there's like a dog or like a chittering monkey or something, that's usually me. And that's where you go, the baby to do that. I love my job. I am an demands, my ex-girlfriend wants to find me a polyphonic prostitute. I will make sounds for money. Sometimes I get more than $3.99 a minute. Can you do like Grumpy Bear? That's wrong! Being a Care Bear was fun. It was, because dude, I'm a Care Bear. I'm a pony now. Traveling sales ponies non-power. That's just the joke. We're going, okay, I'm Wolverine and I'm a pony. Wolverine was a cool name just because it's Wolverine. I mean, when I got that phone call, it was like, dude, freaking Wolverine. Ooh, I felt like an idiot for because the first day in the studio, Stanley's going, you need to lose that little twang you got. I'm like, dude, I spent 25 years learning how to not go, check that out. And he's like, you know Wolverine's Canadian. I'm like, but he's never been played right. I've done them, Steve Bloom's done them, there's a lot of people stepped into those clawed shoes, and it's always like, hey, bro, don't make me get all Canadian out here behind shit. I've been to Northern Alberta, goddammit, I am Canadian. You want to see what real Wolverine is? Frickin' Ryan Coke, man. You want to fucking go? I'll pound you right now. Fucking do it, man. Fucking shit off. Let's fucking go. Schnipped, okay? You give a Canadian rye whiskey, boom. I'm not exaggerating. That's how we talk up there. So someday, somebody went, dude, you do that, I will animate it. I'm like, yes. The real fuck. You want to go, man? I'll frickin' pound you right now. Fucking look at me, man. I'll frickin' do you right here. I give her. Fucking give her. So that was my true Canadian moment. Yes, hit it. Lucha Lucha was fun. Because I played like 9 characters and I get paid by the character. And who doesn't like being a luchador? Who's that? Senor Hasbina! That is so ungroovy! And it's like, what? It's like, well, it's kind of Bootsy Collins with some... It was a fun show because they let us kind of go nuts and be crazy. And thank you for being the only person that remembers that show. I've done a lot of weird stuff, man. I remember there was a TV series called The Wacky World of Tex Avery. You did not. Did you really? Remember Freddy the Fly? Freddy the Fly? You're freaking awesome. That was Billy West. Amanda Banshee, the 70-year-old spinster woman that he was always fighting with, that was me. People go, I know your voice and everything. No, you don't. Not if I've done my job right. The greatest compliment I ever got in my life was from an engineer in a studio that I worked at for years. And he went, Scott, you know what? You're the only one that sometimes I have to look up to see who it is. I'm like, thank you. That's nice. I've done so many weird things. Anybody ever watch League of Super Evil? Okay, that's too evil. I love that show. I've done 2 things in my entire career. When Beast Wars was on, I watched it. Because I didn't care that I was in it. That was a good show. I'm like, I can get home on Thursday, watch my show. I love the little mouse. I know. Shut up, Red Chair. League of Super Evil is fun because it's the world's worst supervillains. Headed up by yours truly, Voltar, who's a little dude about that big.
I will not be denied. And then when the pizza gets here 10 minutes late, we get free pizza. You hear that, Steve?
They're idiots.
Wise when you want to be called idiot.
Or I'm sort of channeling up here. We did cover the whole ADOS thing, right? Squirrel! At least there's no lights, man. I've done this before where they've had like flashing lights on the side. Dude, this is a bad idea. This is a seriously bad idea. Yes?
Do you remember the show that you played Ash Williams from People Dead?
I did?
Yeah.
Groovy. I miss Ruby. That was a fun show. I am proud to say that I was Hack. I also got to be Fax Modem in the X-Files episode. I don't know what it was like. My sister was stolen by aliens. It's like, could you do any less? No, I can't. I've got the microphone pressed into my forehead and I'm just thinking, oh, look, who comes waltzing in all late on their own time? They don't call, they don't write. It's all right. Your mother and I will work. Yes.
Can you shout out
Oh, good. I haven't yelled yet today. Let me know when. Yeah. Let's get this out of the way right now. Feeding directly into disciple. Followed by special beam cannon!
Thank you very much. That concludes the screaming and rupturing part of our show. Beautiful young lady right there.
Sorry, and I'm going to be Mr. Rude. Just go, yeah, you. And see, I love this one. It's like, me? Yeah, now you who's doing this, but then you got 8 people going, yes.
What was your experience like on Sergeant Frog?
On what?
Sergeant Frog. What?
On Sergeant Frog?
Yeah.
What?
Sergeant Frog. You were.
I know the anime, but I don't think he's in it.
Yeah.
Is that awkward one?
No. What?
No, it's not Brett Michaels. We're in the wrong goddamn panel.
I don't think he was Garo.
Were you ever Garo?
Pardon me?
Were you ever Garo on Sergeant Frog? Yeah.
It was a wonderful experience. I was working with a cast of highly respected professionals, and I loved them all. With the help of the baby Jeebus. We got in there, we gave it 110%. We did everything we could to win. We just got outplayed by the other team. I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought.
That was a very Canadian moment. I'm sorry. Step on a Canadian's toe, they're like, oh, I'm sorry. Until you give them rye whiskey. Fucking pound you out. If you come up with another one, I'll answer anything else.
Okay. You
She's
like
like,
Dragon Ball Z?
Dragon Ball, did I do that?
All of
That one I did. Piccolo, Jace, Corone, Majin Buu, Old Kai, South Kai, Dr. Brief, Android 16, Android something or other, Farmer in Field. There's a trading card. I've signed one. It's cool. That was the longest run. We did that show, and this is while it was also being done down here. 10 years. One series. And then it was like, oh, I'll see you in the next one. They're like, nope. What? It's done. Did it end? What happened? I'm not allowed to say, but there might be some large flying reptile, spheroid, last letter of the alphabet product coming out soon from Canada again. But you didn't hear that from me, you two. Yes. Oh! There was so much screaming in that show that we did actually pass out a lot. Like, she's not even listening now. But that show was just, it was, because you never knew, we didn't see the scripts. It's yelling time again. So you're like, okay, huge battle epic, 60 pages of, there's a little break here, like, thank God. Or the ones I hated was the floating in the air was like, it's like nobody punches that fast. And we didn't know, it would be like page after page after page after page. It's the nice thing about Kai, it's condensed. And now I've watched Abridged. Those guys are fun. I've done cons with them now, because I was going like, why do people keep asking me to yell Dodge? It's not in the parking lot, it's a Dodge! What's your favorite candy? Nerds! I am not a goddamn Yoshi! And somebody went, you gotta watch Abridged, man. I'm like, oh my God, that's funnier than we ever were. Ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen, for those of you who are listening to the seminar on how to get attention in a crowd, this is a good start. Glowing friends will get the shiny attention.
What is your advice on?
Don't.
I really want to be a voice actor. I'm in theater school and everything. So how do you start?
You started the right way, right then when you said you were in theater school. Oh God, I'm gonna get all sincere now. You can edit this crap out, baby.
Okay.
Because in the theater, sincerity is everything, of course. And once you've learned to fake that, you've got to be. I teach back home occasionally, and I meet a lot of people. And a lot of people, they go, oh my God, I want to be a voice actor. And I meet a lot of people that can do a lot of voices. A lot of them can do a lot of my voices. Guess what? I do them better. I do a perfect, Homer Simpson, but guess what? There's one person that does it better than I'll ever do it, and he's getting the money. If you can do 437 different voices, awesome. If you can't act, you don't work. If you do one voice and you're a great actor, especially in anime. I mean, anime is kind of a sideline for me, but a lot of the stuff done in here, it's not about being a vocal acrobat, it's about being... So the two words, voice actor. Oh. The reason Mel Blanc was so great was he never ever created a voice. Mel Blanc always, despite of what my therapist tells me, I know now that rabbits can't talk. Because he created characters. He created characters. No matter how far, if it's a small blob of crime-fighting wasabi or, pan-galactic space flurfer or... It doesn't matter what you do. Voice work is kind of, the vocal thing is, I hate to say secondary because it's also my living. But you must be an actor first, you must create characters, and going to theater school is the best damn thing you can do. Because then once you get out of there, and you go through the 3 years of therapy, and you forget all that crap they taught you, and you realize that you knew how to do it in the first place, then you step out into the world as an actor.
How exactly do you do that? How do you go about getting those gigs?
Oh hell, I ain't telling you that. I'm not dumb. I'm not the best person to ask because I do not work and or live in America. I live and or work in Canada, which is different. Particularly, in terms of anime, down here it's done, most of it, it's primarily Funimation, I guess, in ATV, which is sort of in-house, one place. Now, having said that, if you're ready, and this means you have done your homework, and it's not just sort of showing up and going, okay, here I am. I would like it. Be ready to work. But they do have, I know they have open auditions there quite regularly. What the hell was that weird sound? This is the second part to getting attention, is have 9 of your friends all do this to you. But, from my point of view, it's like getting it together, getting ready, learning how to do it. You need to, I can give you the Canadian point of view, right? Because it's all full-on union and, it's the big show. It's a little bit like LA. So, you need to have an agent. You need to have a demo, which, for God's sake, keep it short. If you think I'm ADD, meet the producers. If you're putting together a demo, a minute and 15 seconds is probably about 6 seconds too long. If you can do 4,322 different characters, that's awesome. Don't put them all on the tape. Pick 4, pick 5. But pick the 4 and 5 that show what you can do. Little vocal tricks is something when I'm teaching is like something I call the toolbox. And this is not so much character, but you need to, like, DBZ every day would be in there and they'd go like, oh, by the way, you're also playing this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. We got no time to talk about it. Go beep, 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 whop. So sometimes you just have to be able to win. So you do 2 voices. You do some sort of a low voice, you do some sort of a high voice. You got 2 characters. 2 voices anyway. Now, you decide to watch a Red Dwarf marathon. And suddenly you realize that you can do this perfect Manchester accent. You're always worrying about it. So you combine that. Well, now you don't have 2 voices, now you got 4. Suddenly you go, you stick a lateral lisp in there somewhere. Well, now your 4 is now 8. 16, 32, and then you start cross-referencing, and then you start putting 3, 4, 5 together. You have what I call the toolbox. Do you all watch Beast Wars? Yeah. I love it. Going in, all the bad guys, everybody's doing the bad guys. I say, Doug Parker, who's casting? This is the genius of a good casting director. I go in, I'm like reading for everybody, because that's my thing. Read for every character. The more spaghetti you throw at the wall, boom, the more chance somebody is going to stick. I have played women, I have played them all. They're like, you don't want to audition after me, by the way, I'm just saying. Because I will read for everything. But where's I going? Oh, so, everybody's going, bad guys sound like bad guys. Dougie goes, use your bubble voice. And it's a voice I used before. It's like, hi, my name's Eddie, how are you? And I'm like, yeah, but he's like, yeah, well, take that. Now make him a bad guy. And I look and I go, oh God, he's a wasp, thank you. So need you want to kill a wasp. And of course, he ended up becoming an idiot as well. So that was just from them watching me. But, that was the thing of going, take that, add this onto it, throw a dash of that, put a little Peter Lorre, and you just, bam, you do the world's best John Wayne, and it actually sounds like Carol Channing. Awesome. Because if you do impressions, they're perfect. They can't use them. But it's always ways to come up with new. I mean, I'm stressing the importance of being an actor first, but I'm also telling you my stuff, which tends to be a little more, I hear sounds and I don't even think about it. I just suddenly go, oh, that's a weird sound. Where does that live? Where does that, hey, does a voice, yeah, what am I, freaking clown? It's up, finding places where they live, that's all part of the toolbox, right? You go, I can shift 7 different gears through my head to make 7 different things happen. Then you combine that with all the other, oh, I'm actually really kind of getting into this. Throw something at me if I go too long.
Very helpful.
Thanks. This is how to be a voice actor 101. Really, you just gotta know people. If you can get a chance to get into studios and watch, everything I know I learned from working with amazing people. In dubbing, it's a little more difficult, because I don't know if Funimation would let you come in as an extra. They probably would. So anyway, long story short, just go bug them and see when they do auditions. Or move to Canada. Oh, why not? We'll take you. And sorry, we're out of time.
This is not a secret, I've seen it many times on YouTube, but I'm glad you were able to make it down here.
It's exactly the same stuff he does on YouTube every time. Now he's going to tell the story about farting in the studio. What? And thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't teach.
I know you guys are doing a research show, that comedy show, where you play a big character.
From the Frog.
Yeah. Myself and of course, online, really want to know, did you ever consider visits that law, or did you guys have to?
We did not get that far. Shut up. Thank you. That's strictly off the record, of course, because nothing here is ever going to... Remember, kids, what happens at con stays on YouTube. Keep going. She gotta go pee. I hope everything comes out all right. Kids know frogs. They know how that stuff ends. I think she's beautiful. You're such a dick. You just told them I was peeing. And thank you for that. Yes?
The first time I ever got introduced to your work was back in how the Beast Wars had started and everything. And all the characters you did, I was like Boston or Red Hat. I wanted to know what your feelings were on the way the writing was. When, the show was more mature than your normal, let's say, episode that you did show at the time. And also what your feelings were whenever they decided to temporarily kill off Dynamite.
Oh yeah, I was happy about that. Let's be realistic, that was 1/4 of my paycheck. And Dinobot knew he was gonna die. And you bring up a good point. That was the only, and I've done so much American, let's solve the world in 22 minutes and sell a toy. Beast Wars, the reason I really became a fan of the show was because the writing was a lot more like a Japanese. There was a whole 3-year arc before the bad thing happened and it became Beast Machines. But Larry and Bob, the writers on that, they really knew how to work it. Dinobot knew he was going to die 5 episodes before. Not to be. Not to be. It's Hamlet, for God's sake. I, of course, am clueless. Going to work today. is silence. Okay, when do I come back? No, you're dead, Scott. Yeah, but I'm like cartoon dead, right? No, you're dead. Yeah, but I'm dead. Dead. That was just and now I'd never been to a convention in my life, and cartoon work is the most anonymous work in the world. I went to BotCon in Anaheim just after Code of the Hero had aired. And, first of all, it was the first time I'd met you guys. I love you people. Standing behind some guy drawing artwork, I'm like, I just went into a nice picture. The guy just like, what, am I on fire? Like what? But people were coming up in tears going like, I just watched Code of the Hero and when Dinobot died. And it was, but please don't let them cheapen it by bringing him back. And I'm like, trust me, they're not gonna. And then they did! And I saw some of that and I went, you know what, if I had been thinking, if I had been a little more on the ball, I would have played Dinobot 2 quite differently than I did. Because I saw the animation, he was so twitchy. So I would have made him really psychotic. That was such a fun show. The other people in the show hated me. Because it'd be like, because all that Dinobot rat trap stuff, I just recorded that in one. They'd be like, oh, Scott's doing one of his scenes again. We're going out for coffee. It was sort of fun. Yeah, well, I'd like to see you try it, Dinobot, And of course, Silverbolt, strong, proud, brave, and smart like a bag of hammers. I miss that show. Yes. Holding up brightly colored objects, also a good idea.
First time I was introduced to your line of work was McNeil.
Don't bother the plans to take over the world. Yeah, nice try, Doc. Anyway, sorry.
Sixth grade, I would watch it religiously. How would you get to, the mindset for those characters?
Oh, there was a lot of good. I worry myself a lot because people go, well, what are these? I mean, some characters I really do, you construct them as you're going in. You're going into audition, and you get the sides and the dialogue. I work very much myself from the pictures. If I see what a character looks like, I like to go from there. Or sometimes you figure out, like, what would his laugh be? What would he say? That's how I came up with Dr. Wily was, Actually, I played Dr. Wily 3 different times in 3 different versions. And one of them, he was English, like British English. Yeah, because different clients, I've also done a newer Mega Man where I was Gutsman and Cutman and all these other men, and somebody else was Wily. It's a weird sort of incestuous business that way. But, so sometimes, you develop the character as you're prepping to go in an audition. What worries me is sometimes characters just... Mega Man! Sometimes characters just come out of me. Like, fully fledged. I've done it, I've been talking to somebody, and all of a sudden there's this person, and I'm like, who is that? Like, complete history, everything about them, they just poof, there they are. I don't know where you came from. He started showing up. After jokes, I got taken a debilitating and horrifying mental illness and turned into a fun and profitable career. Oh my God, it's true! And I see wolf heads! So, that's kind of the short form version of it, is you just, however you sort of create that character. There's a lot of different ways to do it. And different things work for different things. The very esoteric version is being open to whatever it is good. That's when the best work is done. When you kind of step out of the way and just go, all right, who's this person looking back at me from the page? It can be terrifying, honestly. It's like, whoa! Where the heck did that one come from? Sometimes you slave and you go like, oh, okay. Then there's always, the producers want to say they want this, but they don't necessarily know what they want, and you second guess. The best work is when you just make a choice and you go in with it. You go, this is how I think the character is. If they say that sucks, you go, okay, I got this as well. If they say that sucks too, you go, good, well, I'm reading for the other 12 characters as well. If you can get away with it. The other thing is to wear purple. I find purple to be the most shiny of colors. Well, honestly, Beast Wars was, he was asking about, playing multiple characters and how much fun it is. Yeah, it's called therapy. Therapy. Beast Wars was probably the most fun because I knew those characters so well, and the writers were so great, because they were in watching us as we were doing it. Like, the characters evolved with, I mean, Rat Trap was not originally such a dork. They just went, Scott's an idiot, let's make him more of him. Silverbolt I was having trouble with until I went, you know, he's the kind of guy that would say, citizen, and they went, so, you know, so I was kind of having the opportunity to ad-lib with myself, which was fun. Like I said, the other guys were like, because some shows they would record, you know, you'd record one character coming through and then you'd go back and record the other stuff. A lot of stuff, you know, if you're playing multiples in the anime, a lot of times it's like, we're going to get all the dialogue for this guy first, then we're going to go back and get all the dialogue for this. It's tons of fun. I mean, it's the playground. It's my monkey bars. It's like I'm the kindergarten class with too much sugar and no Ritalin. And people have watched and said, it's weird, man. I mean, everything shifts on you. I stress that when I'm teaching too. It's not about voice. Like, people will come in and watch and go like, you guys, man, like when you change characters, everything about your hair changes, your ears move. You know, like you grow that weird third arm out of your chest. Because you've only got the one thing to convey everything with. But you got to have everything behind it. People think we stand in the studio and talk. You'd be shocked at how physical it is in there. You know, Beast Wars is good. People watch and go like, your whole body changes when you shift gears like that. Because it's all that you have to do to keep it. Otherwise, you're going, which voice is this? Did it sound like? Can I hear that? You know, once you've made the character yours, it's yours. I mean, I won't be lying if I said I sometimes don't get confused, because it can be a little crowded upstairs in my house. There's tricks you can use too. When I started doing this, to be like, you form up a little catchphrase. You know, because sometimes you would get lost. It was like, wait a minute, when I was, you know, oh man, we're all gonna die. Okay, Rat Trap. Boom. It's tricks and tips. Yes. That's another good one, is to get the attention and then turn like this to your lazy ass friend. I'm sorry, Bobby Joe. Okay, y'all know me? Know how bad I am with names? Anyone that does know me knows that I'm one of those like, Mom, people. I remember the name.
I have two questions.
Because you got two names. All right, so first question coming from Bobby.
What was it like to work with David Kaye from anime?
Oh my God, he's so dreamy. Dave's awesome. I haven't seen him for a while because he's been working down in LA for the last few years, but I've worked on a lot of stuff with Dave. I mean, when it comes to anime, like, you know, what was it like working with so-and-so on Inuyasha? Well, I don't know. We're in there by ourselves. That's why it's kind of, you know, I prefer doing prelay, because, you know, anime, you're sitting in a small padded room by yourself, trying to act with somebody else's lips, which is a technical itch for those of you who are aspiring. That's a whole nother can of worms. But Dave's awesome. He's a huge talent, huge talent. I worked with him on the very first gig he ever did. We were doing G.I. Joe Sergeant Savage. And I'm going, cool, General Hawk's in this one. Who's playing Hawk? And there's like this new kid. And I'm like, okay. And he comes in, at the time he was a kid. I mean, he was this tall, skinny-ass kid. And you're like, General Hawk? Yeah, sure, okay. He gets up under the microphone and boom. You're like, what? What? There's some people that have what I refer to as a flap. They have microgenic voices, because you talk to a lot of people, like Dave's got a very normal sounding voice in real life, but he gets on a mic and something happens. All of a sudden your feet start vibrating. And it's not because it's like, it's a really deep voice. It's just something that some people have that's just present somehow. Anyway, Dave is awesome. So, Joe, your question.
My next question was, what was it like to be Snarl and Backstop from Text from the Cyberpunk?
Fun. Not as much fun as Beast Wars, again, because, you know, it was an anime dub version. And to be perfectly honest, the director and the producers on that, they didn't give much of a rat's butt. They were just like, whatever, crank them out. Snarl was just kind of, you know, Snarl was kind of a rip on Dinobot. Backstop I had fun with, just because, you know, he was Backstop from the jungle planet. Just like big and deep and slow. And, you know, he's a little different from stuff I played before. But again, then you're just trying to make rough flaps work.
I also know that you also...
That's three! Pardon me? Kalka. Okay, so we've had Bobby, we've had Joe. Okay, Kalka, your question?
I also know that you did Jetfire from Armada.
I did. Funny thing was, when they went from Armada to Cyber, whatever the next one was, they decided that Jetfire should be Australian. Guess who's Australian? Guess who didn't get the role? Stupid producers. It's a funny business that way. All right. Oh God. Okay, yes and then yes. Bye. Bye now. Have fun storming the castle. You're gonna work it. Take a miracle. Bye-bye. Everybody move. What? Oh dear. My favorite line from? I don't remember anything from that. It's when, here's a little thought though on Koga. And this is PG. If you discuss this with the annals of the American Kennel Club or the British Kennel Club, because they are all canids on that show, wolves, foxes, dogs, there is certain terminologies in place that are very legitimate. This is the actual terminology that's used, and if you use anything else, it's actually confusing to people. So there is no reason, broadcast standards and practices, why I could not, with all impunity, stand there in my Koga suit, of which there is one in this room that is magnificent, ready to go. Stand up. Giddy up. Why I could not say, Kagome, you will be my bitch. It's true. All I remember was screaming on that show. Mud face. Yes, another good trick is to be sitting right in the front.
You said after that.
Oh, you know what? I did. I'm sorry, but I won't come back to you, but you're next after next.
I heard a story that you signed death notes.
I will not sign a death note. It's the only thing I won't sign. I will sign the bottom of your stinky feet after you've been walking in the Texas heat and sandals. I'll come over and wash your damn car with you, but I won't. And it's always the person that's the end of the 8-hour lineup that comes up, they're like exhausted. I'm going, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, really? I'm like, because whose idea was that? What made that seem like a good idea to anybody? And no, you cannot say 99 years old in bed with triplets. I believe in the loophole thing. So yeah, I'm actually glad you mentioned that, just because it saves awkwardness in the line. Yes. Good, I like this. Oh God, yeah. Scary Goblin was brilliant. I watched it every Halloween. Who was I? I was the skeleton in the closet. Ooh, scary godmother, I don't think we can do that. It's like, yeah, closet my butt. Count Max, yes, we are here for the blood. It was based on a really cool series of comic books that the artist had done. Speaking of the closet, when I played Herbie, I figured something out. Not if you don't mind my being a dentist. Oh! Things you see as an adult. We're not like the others, are we? Except the ones in gym class. Sorry. It's walkie-talkie. Yes. The Broom Squad. All right. Okay, hands are up in the air right now. How many are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do what I call the lightning round, which means you're going to ask the fastest question in the world. I'm going to answer the fastest question, answer in the world. Go! I will sign anything as soon as we're done this room, but once we're done, we need to get out of here so the next thing can come in. Hand. There, yes. I would like to have played all the other characters on everything. I get paid by the character. There's only one that I haven't played that I just think is as brilliant as, oh, part of our plan to take over the world. I love the brain. Hands, yes, and Wolfhead, because I knew I'd get to you sooner or later because I couldn't avoid you.
Have you ever been starstruck when you got an audition?
Not often, because I work with, a lot of professionals, a lot of things, and some are dicks and some are great people. There's a few people I would. I worked with Charlton Heston. That was kind of cool. Even though he's, I'm sorry to say it in America, he was an idiot, but he's still freaking Charlton Heston. Oh my God. It's a pretty good Heston. Yeah, it is Heston. Wow! Now, cartoons, we don't often get a lot of the celebrity stuff, but it's good. And it was one last hand, and it was where? It's right there!
They're playing a duo, go.
All right, I'll end on this. I will make you this promise. I will be the god of death once again. But right now, We need to clear the room. You guys are awesome!